Hello, everyone. Have you ever failed at something so badly that you wanted to quit? Maybe you were embarrassed, discouraged, or felt like you weren't good enough. If that sounds familiar, congratulations, you're already on the path to success. Ladies and gentlemen, success is not born out of perfection. It is born out of persistence, out of falling down and standing up again, no matter how hard the fall. In a world that celebrates achievements, we often forget to talk about the struggle behind the scenes, the failures, the sleepless nights, the quiet tears, and the voices inside our head saying, maybe I can't. But today I want to remind you, failure is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It's your trainer, it's your test and your path. We grow up hearing stories of success, but rarely do we hear the full truth. Success is built on failure. Every person who has done something remarkable has first faced defeat. The difference is they didn't stop there, they failed forward. Think about Thomas Edison. He failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. When asked about it, he didn't say, I failed 1,000 times. He said, I found 1,000 times. He said, I found 1,000 ways that didn't work. That mindset, that fire is what separates winners from quitters. Here's the truth. Success and failure are not opposites. Failure is part of success. Every step you take, even the ones that feel like setbacks, are actually setups for a greater comeback. But it takes courage. Courage to try again after falling. Courage to believe in yourself when no one else does. Courage to see failure not as the end but as a beginning. That's what this speech is about. The courage to fail and the power to rise. Because once you understand that failure isn't final, something inside you changes. You stop avoiding challenges. You stop fearing mistakes, you start growing, you start learning, and eventually you start winning. So today I want you to ask yourself, what if the thing you're most afraid of, failure, is exactly what you need to grow? What if falling is just the first step to flying? Let's explore how success isn't just about talent or intelligence or luck. It's about mindset, resilience, and the will to keep going, even when things get tough. Because in the end, success doesn't come to the one who never failed. It comes to the one who never quit. Let me ask you something personal. What is your biggest fear? Is it losing, being judged, or not being good enough? For many people, it's failure. That awful feeling of falling short, of trying and not making it, of putting your heart into something and still not getting the result you hope for. But let me tell you something that might surprise you. Failure is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. You see, we've been trained by society to treat failure like the end of the road. In school, we're told that mistakes equal bad grades. In sports, losing is frowned upon. On social media, we only see the highlights, the wins, the trophies, the smiling faces. But real life isn't always pretty. It's messy, unpredictable, and full of setbacks. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, that's where growth begins. Never fear failure. Why? Because if you fear failure, you fear progress. You fear trying, you fear being human. Let me share a simple truth. Everyone fails. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before someone gave Harry Potter a chance. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Even Albert Einstein was told he might never succeed in academics. But they didn't stop. They didn't let failure define them, because they understood something most people don't. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of the journey. But I get it. Failure hurts. It stings your pride. It makes you question yourself. But pain is not the enemy. Pain is a sign that you're pushing limits, that you're trying something bold. And success doesn't come from playing it safe. It comes from stepping outside your comfort zone. Ask yourself this. What would you do if you weren't afraid of failing? Would you start that business? Speak up for what you believe in. Chase a dream you've buried inside for years. Fear holds us back from becoming the best version of ourselves. It tells us, what if it goes wrong? But here's a better question. What if it goes right? You see, the people who truly succeed are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who fall and get up again. They treat failure like feedback, not defeat. They see it as a lesson, not a label. Think of a baby learning to walk. They fall again and again. But not once do they say, maybe walking just isn't for me. No, they keep trying. They smile through the stumbles. And eventually they take their first steps. That's exactly how life works. So never let the fear of failure stop you from starting. Never let a single fall convince you to give up, because failure is temporary, but regret can last forever. Here's something powerful to remember. The greatest risk isn't failure. It's never trying. When you avoid failure at all costs, you also avoid growth. You stay in the safe zone. You limit your potential. But when you face failure head on, when you say, I might fall, but I'll rise again, that's when you become unstoppable. So next time you're about to take a big step, in school, in life, in your dreams, and that voice in your head whispers, what if you fail? Whisper back, so what if I do? I'll get back up stronger. Because in the end, it's not the falling that defines you, it's what you do after the fall. Never fear failure. Fear standing still. Fear giving up, but never fear the fall. Because every fall brings you closer to flying. Success is a beautiful thing. It brings pride, joy, and validation. But let's be honest, we don't learn much from winning. When everything goes smoothly, we celebrate. But we rarely stop to reflect. We don't ask ourselves, what did I do wrong? Or how can I improve? Because, well, we assume we've done it all right. But failure forces us to pause, to question, to grow. It might sound strange, but hear me out. Some of life's greatest lessons don't come from success, they come from failure. When you fail, you gain something far more valuable than just a trophy or a title. You gain wisdom, you gain resilience, you gain the deep inner strength that only comes from experience. Let's take a moment to think about this. Imagine a student who always tops the class. No challenges, no struggles. It feels great, right? But what happens when one day they finally face a difficult problem? Something they've never encountered before. They might feel lost, confused, discouraged. Why? Because they were never taught how to cope with difficulty. Success never prepared them for that moment, but failure could have. Failure teaches you how to adapt. It teaches you humility. It forces you to go back, try again and do better. And that process, that cycle of reflection and effort, is where true learning happens. Think of Thomas Edison, the man behind the invention of the electric light bulb. He didn't get it right on the first try. In fact, he failed thousands of times. When asked how it felt to fail so many times, he replied, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That mindset is what makes all the difference. He didn't see failure as the end. He saw it as a map, a guide, showing him which paths not to take. Now let's think about our own lives. Maybe you failed a test, lost a job, been rejected, felt left out. These moments hurt, they can shake our confidence, but they also hold powerful lessons if we're brave enough to look for them. Ask yourself, what did I learn about myself in that moment? What could I do differently next time? What strength did I discover that I didn't know I had? Because that's what failure does. It introduces you to the stronger, wiser, more capable version of yourself. Success may boost your ego, but failure builds your character. It teaches patience, discipline, emotional control, grit. And those are the qualities that last a lifetime. Let's not forget, failure also makes you relatable and humble. People are inspired not by those who've had it easy, but by those who've struggled and still stood tall. When you fail and rise again, your story becomes a source of hope for others. Take Oprah Winfrey. She was fired from her first TV job because her bosses said she was unfit for television. Today she's one of the most influential women in the world. She once said failure is another stepping stone to greatness. She didn't let failure break her. She let it shape her. So instead of hiding from failure or feeling ashamed of it, wear it like a badge of honor. Every time you fail, you gain insight about your choices, your limits, your habits, and your willpower. Let failure be your mentor. Let it guide your decisions. Let it sharpen your focus. Because no amount of reading or advice can teach you what a single failure can. Yes, success feels good. It's rewarding and validating. But failure transforms you. So the next time something doesn't go your way, don't just ask, why me? Instead ask, what is this trying to teach me? Because in life, you either win or you learn. And in the end, the lessons we learn from failure become the foundation of our future success. We live in a world that celebrates success, trophies, medals, certificates, applause. But beneath every success story, there is something the world often forgets to acknowledge: the struggle, the moments when things didn't go as planned, the sleepless nights, the rejections, the disappointments, the failures. Here's the truth, no one tells you loudly enough. It's not success that shapes your character, it's failure. When you succeed, you enjoy the rewards, but when you fail, you build the foundation of who you are. You discover your grit, your courage, your patience, and your resilience. These are the traits that truly define you, Not the medals you wear, but the strength you develop when things fall apart. Let's pause and think about something simple. What happens when you go to the gym and lift weights? Your muscles tear slightly with every repetition, but it's in that tearing, in that moment of strain and resistance, that strength is built. The pain you feel is not destroying you, it's building you. Failure works the same way. Every time you fall and get back up, you grow stronger, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You learn how to keep going when things get hard. You develop the mental muscle that allows you to stay calm under pressure, to believe in yourself even when no one else does. Think of some of the strongest people in history, people like Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison, or Malala Yousafzai, who was shot simply for wanting an education. They didn't become strong despite their failures and setbacks. They became strong because of them. Nelson Mandela once said, "Do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again." Because that's where true strength lies, in your ability to rise. Let's bring it closer to home. Think about a time when you failed, maybe in school, maybe in a relationship, maybe in something deeply personal. At the time it may have felt like the end of the world, but look at you now. You survived, you learned, you became wiser. You may not have noticed it then, but something inside you changed. You became more grounded, you understood your limits, and more importantly, you discovered your ability to overcome. That is what character is all about. It's not about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about how you behave when things go wrong. It's about staying honest when it's easier to lie. It's about holding on to your values when no one else does. And failure gives you those opportunities. Yeah. It's the ultimate teacher of integrity, empathy, and humility. You see, failure humbles you. It reminds you that you are human, that it's okay to fall short, that you still have room to grow, but it also whispers something else, something powerful. You are stronger than this. And the more you listen to that voice, the louder it becomes. We often look at successful people and admire their confidence, their power, their poise, but what don't see are the nights they cried, the times they doubted themselves, the moments they wanted to quit. Their strength didn't appear out of thin air. It was built, one failure at a time. So don't run from your failures. Don't bury them. Don't be ashamed of them. Face them, own them, learn from them, grow through them. Because every time you fall and get up, you're not starting over. You're starting from experience. And with experience comes wisdom. With wisdom comes strength. With strength comes character. And with character comes true, lasting success, the kind that no one can take away from you. So the next time life knocks you down, take a breath, stand tall, look it in the eye and say, "You hit me hard, but I'm still here." That's strength, that's character, and that's what failure was always meant to build in you. We've often been taught that success and failure are two sides of a coin. One good, one bad. One brings pride, the other shame. One we chase, the other we run from. But this thinking is not only wrong, it's dangerous. Because the moment we believe failure is the opposite of success, we start fearing it instead of embracing it. Let me tell you the truth that many people realize only after years of struggle. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every great achievement in history was built on a foundation of failed attempts, from scientific discoveries to world-changing inventions, from championship victories to best-selling books. Nothing worthwhile has ever come without setbacks, missteps, or rejection. Why? Because success is not a straight road. It's a winding path filled with bumps, turns, and detours. And every failure along that path is not a wall. It's a sign guiding you in a better direction. Let's think of it like this. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. Success is the peak, but to reach that peak, you'll trip over rocks, lose your footing, face harsh weather, maybe even fall. Does falling down the mountain mean you failed completely? No, it means you're still on the climb. Failure is simply part of the journey. Ask anyone who has truly succeeded in life, and they'll tell you the same thing. Their greatest lessons and breakthroughs came from the moments they failed, because in those moments, they learned what didn't work, they discovered what needed to change, and most importantly, they discovered how badly they wanted it. Look at Elon Musk. Before Tesla and SpaceX became global giants, he faced bankruptcy, ridicule, and massive setbacks. Rockets exploded, critics laughed, people said it was impossible. But with every failure, he adjusted, he refined, he learned, and that's why he succeeded. Or take Walt Disney. He was fired from a newspaper job for lacking the imagination. His first animation company went bankrupt. Today, his name is synonymous with creativity and success. Would these stories exist if those people gave up after their first failure? No, because what made them succeed wasn't luck. It was persistence in the face of failure. You see, every failure is feedback. It's life saying, not this way. Try again. It's not a closed door. It's a and when you start seeing failure, they fall hundreds of times, but not once do they say, walking just isn't for me. They get up over and over again until one day they take that first step, and that moment becomes a milestone. That's exactly how success works. It's not just the end goal that matters. It's the process. It's the trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again that builds the real story. So if you've failed at something recently, take a moment to breathe. Don't call it the end. Call it part of your progress. Because success isn't about never falling. It's about getting up one more time than you fall. Let me say that again. Success is getting up one more time than you fall. It's that extra push, that final attempt, that moment when you decide to rise instead of give up. The greatest mistake people make is thinking they failed just because they didn't succeed yet. But yet is the most powerful word in the journey of growth. You haven't succeeded yet, but you're on the way. Keep walking. In the end, the most successful people aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who failed, learned, and kept going anyway. So stop separating failure and success. They belong together. Failure is not a punishment. It's a preparation. It's a lesson. And most of all, it's proof that you're trying. And if you're trying, you're already halfway to success. So now as we reach the end of this journey together, let's reflect on what we've discovered. We learned that failure is not something to fear. It's something to face with courage. We realized that failure teaches lessons success never can, lessons of growth, self-awareness, and wisdom. We saw how failure builds strength and character, forging resilience in the fire of struggle. And above all, we understood that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of it. Every setback is a step forward in disguise. Let this truth sink in deeply. The strongest people you admire today didn't get there by avoiding failure. They got there by walking through it. They stumbled, they cried, they doubted, but they also stood up. They learned, they fought back, and they kept going. And so can you. You are not defined by your failures. You are shaped by them. You are not held back by your setbacks. You are prepared by them. Because every time you fall and get up again, you prove to the world and to yourself that you are not finished. So the next time life throws you down, don't ask, why me? Stand tall and say, try me. Because you are not here just to survive. You are here to rise, to learn, to grow, and to succeed. Not in spite of your failures, but because of them. So go ahead, chase that dream, take that risk, walk that difficult path. And when failure comes, as it surely will, greet it like an old friend. Let it teach you, let it build you, let it guide you, and then rise. Because your story is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning. Thanks for listening.